We have the very latest in news, business and sports, but first things first, let's look at the highlights. Tonight, the government's assurance.
She does not meet the case definition of Ebola.
Suspected patient zero tested negative for Ebola. Plus, Kenya's hardline position.
We asked for a comprehensive response as to the attack on Kenya's sovereignty. And this was important because we already had a court case.
Rift over maritime boundary with Somalia widens. And the ripples of the president's pushback. And how it could change the country's political dynamics. Also tonight, switched at birth, separated by science, bound by love.
They are my sisters and I love them very much.
Parents pledge to keep girls together.
NTV Tonight with Dennis Okari.
Well, very many thanks for joining us in this news broadcast. In the next 60 minutes, we'll try and bring you all these latest news stories. Our sign language presenter tonight is David Gondoa. Tonight, the government is reassuring an easy nation that there is no outbreak of the devastating Ebola virus in the country. This is after a female patient admitted at the Kericho Referral Hospital yesterday, exhibiting Ebola-like symptoms, tested negative. The government now says it has put in place prevention and response measures in the event of an outbreak, amid fears that the virus could have originated from neighboring Uganda, which has since confirmed 2 deaths from the virus. NTV's Seth Olale has been with this story, staying with this story since it broke, and is giving us the very latest.
Fears of a possible Ebola outbreak had gripped the nation. But now, the country can breathe easy after this announcement by the Ministry of Health.
I wish to reassure all Kenyans and our visitors that we do not have any cases of Ebola.
Health Cabinet Secretary says that the results of the test carried out by the Kenya Medical Research Institute, KEMRI, on a female patient initially feared to have contracted the deadly disease have been confirmed to be negative. However, the 36-year-old female patient and 3 others, including her Kericho-based husband and a passenger who attended to her during the journey to Kericho, are still being held in isolation at the Kericho County Referral Hospital. The woman, who had reportedly traveled from Malaba, Busia County, on the Kenya-Uganda border to see her spouse, who currently works in Kericho, was initially admitted at the Siloam Private Hospital in Kericho, complaining of headache, fever, puffy face, diarrhea and nausea. She was then transferred to the Kericho County Referral Hospital, where her blood samples were sent to the Kenya Medical Research Institute, KEMRI, in Kisumu for further analysis.
What we have is a suspected case, which could be any other condition, but since we are on a high state of alertness for patients who've come from Uganda through our ports of entry, we are treating this as a suspected case, but it's not Ebola.
However, authorities have not revealed details of the passenger service vehicle which arrived with the patient on Sunday at 6 p.m. in Kericho town, amid fears that the health of other passengers might be at risk. At the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, passengers arriving from Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, and a section of West African countries have been subjected to a mandatory screening.
The ministry has undertaken and continues to implement the preparedness measures.
Neighboring Uganda had confirmed 2 cases of Ebola last week. 2 family members died after traveling to the DRC to attend a funeral. The boy's brother, aged 3, is also infected, and several family members are in isolation. A delegation from the World Health Organization, led by Director General Tedros Adhanom, is assessing Uganda's response to the currently Ebola outbreak in Kasese district in western Uganda. The government is urging Kenyans to be vigilant and report any cases related to Ebola symptoms to the nearest public health facilities. Seth Olale, NTV at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Nairobi County.
Now that the Ebola scare has hit that much closer to home, there are so many questions about the disease, how it spread, and the symptoms to look out for. Smriti Vidyarthi put together some quick facts on this. Smriti?
Thanks very much, Dennis. Now, here are a few things that you do need to know about the Ebola virus disease. First and foremost, what is it? Well, it is a rare illness, but it is severe and it can lead to fatalities in humans that contract the disease. There are a variety of symptoms, and have a look at some of these images here. These symptoms include fever, feeling fatigued, muscle pain, headaches, vomiting, among various others. And severe symptoms include internal and external bleeding. Now, medical tests should always be carried out to confirm whether these symptoms are indeed a sign of Ebola, because they may well be a sign of another disease. All right, how can it be transmitted? That's what many people want to know, and it is transmitted to people from wild animals. Look at this image here. They include bat and various other wildlife that may already have Ebola. It spreads in humans through human-to-human transmission. Now, this is via direct contact through the blood or body fluid, such as sweat, of a person who is sick with Ebola or who has also died from it. Contaminated objects, as you can see here, can also transmit the disease, such as needles and various medical equipment. All right, well, how is it diagnosed? Now, coming up on your screen, it is diagnosed through various medical tests, and these detection tests should be carried out at a certified medical institution. Now, there is, unfortunately, no proven treatment for Ebola, but rehydration is often used as a form of treatment. Now, another question that everyone is asking is, how can I protect myself, because it can be a contagious disease? Well, look at the following ways. Reduce contact with infected wildlife, reduce contact with infected humans, check contact with survivors, because those who contract Ebola don't necessarily die from it, and also reconsider breastfeeding, because the disease can be passed on through breast milk. Also, of course, make sure that you and the people around you are very well informed about Ebola symptoms, and then seek medical attention when necessary without causing panic. Dennis, back to you.
Well, thank you, Smriti. And it looks like it's not just the Ebola virus. The CAS tweeted 2 hours ago saying, I do now confirm that the blood samples from the 36-year-old lady in isolation in the Kericho County Referral Hospital have tested negative for the Ebola virus disease and also other viral hemorrhagic fevers. So we're also looking at all the other fevers, and she says that there was no sign of any of them. Let's move on now. The rift between Kenya and Somalia over a territory dispute will likely widen further, with the government adopting a hardline position to never compromise or cede even an inch of our territory to Somalia. On the other hand, a tough-speaking Somalia is unflinching on its quest to sell oil blocks in the disputed territory to buyers in London. Ken Mijungu now reports that the decision of the International Court of Justice on the dispute could provide a way forward.
Kenya is now making a fresh effort to push for a withdrawal of the case filed by Somalia at the International Court of Justice in favor of a negotiated settlement. But even then, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it will not cede even an inch of its territory claimed by Somalia.
You cannot negotiate a court, can you?
This position is informed by the confidence Kenya draws from her historic boundaries. The ministry says Kenya proclaimed her maritime zones, including the subject of the dispute, back in 1979, while the United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea was still under negotiations. Kenya also claims that in the years 1979, 2005 and 2009, she notified Somalia of the maritime boundary through a presidential proclamation. Further, Kenya says Somalia has been on the loop all this while and never made any formal protest nor claim for an alternative. This is until 2014, when it lodged a case disputing the boundary, even though there was an agreement to resolve any maritime dispute through negotiations. Kenya has accused foreign interests of fueling the conflict between the two neighbors and allies. The government had planned to file a complaint with the British and Norwegian governments for allegedly fanning the flames. Kenya says the judicial process will not yield much and is costly and cumbersome.
We sought from them the withdrawal of the illegal maps. We sought appropriate apologies, and we asked for a comprehensive response as to the attack on Kenya's sovereignty. And this was important because we already had a court case that was going on and an understanding in court that none of us would take unilateral action that would affect the disputed areas.
Somalia, on the other hand, is waiting for the outcome of the court process that will be delivered in September in order to go ahead with the sale of the oil blocks or not. A meeting at the African Policy Institute concluded that should Kenya lose the case at the International Court of Justice, it will remain landlocked and will have to appeal to Somalia and Tanzania for permission for ships to dock at the Mombasa port, a position that is unfathomable to the government. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
They are back. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji, and the Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, who were in Washington, D.C. in the U.S. last week on a 3-day visit. The two led a team of crime busters, prosecutors, and the Asset Recovery Agency, where they held a series of meetings with FBI Deputy Director David Bowditch and Deputy U.S. Attorney General Bruce Swartz over a partnership in fighting graft in the country. But while they were away, there appeared to be a lull in activities surrounding the war on graft, and it's no wonder the DPP and DCI's in-tray is still full. Let's look at that tray. We'll start with the Aurora Kimoret Dam probe. After weeks and now months of investigations into the loss of the 21 billion dam scandal, the two agencies are still yet to come to make any arrests so far. We look at other dams, and still on those same dams, the DPP extended his probe to Itare Dam, and he also did that to Mbobut Multipurpose Dam, the Lower Takwel Irrigation Scheme, and the Napu 2 Irrigation Scheme, where the probe revealed government officials were involved in outright theft. We're still waiting on that. Also on the fake gold scandal, the DCI and the DPP expanded their investigations into the fake gold scam in the country and to Dubai as well, and detectives have been talking about investigating this and talking to concerned parties, but the DCI is said to have covered a lot of ground, but they're yet to make any final report, so we're still waiting on that. Also, the DCJ Mwilu, the battle between the Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu and the Director of Public Prosecution Nurdin Haji on whether she will be charged before a criminal court will be fought in the Court of Appeal. Both the DCI and DPP were dissatisfied with the verdict of acquitting her on the graft charges she was facing. There's quite a lot in their in-tray. Matters also to do with investigating the governors in the different counties in collaboration with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And so the in-tray is full. We're waiting to see if there are going to be any arrests or any reports. Let's move now to another story that we've been following for you, and I'm sure you've also been following it. The families of twins separated at birth now say they have forgiven the hospital responsible for the mix-up that saw the two girls raised by separate families. Melvis, Melon, and Sharon say they have accepted the results but will not be going their separate ways. They spoke at the tail end of a months-long process to find out the truth about their paternity.
The journey to this point in time for the families of the three girls began sometime last year when social media helped bring two girls raised separately together and exposed a story that has since gripped the nation. The tale of three girls born at the same time at the same institute to two different mothers, twins and a single birth. The twins separated in a strange twist, one raised alone and one exchanged for another girl, and this pair raised as fraternal twins. 3 days after the truth was revealed, the two families, then strangers, now one unit, gather to chart the way forward.
I have accepted the DNA results the way they have appeared. And what I want to say to the world that let this story of ours be a lesson to all the parents, because we don't know how many parents are living with children who are not theirs.
Tuishi pamoja, tusikuje tukatengana, tukae as a family.
Mavis, Melon and Sharon determined to hold on to each other despite the outcome of the DNA tests that indicated that Mavis did not share genetic makeup with Sharon and Melon, this despite being raised as Mavis's twin.
I want to assure Mavis and Sharon they are my sisters and I love them very much.
The three girls were born at the then Kakamega Referral Hospital in 1999. A post-birth mix-up saw the two girls switched and raised miles apart in Kakamega and Nairobi. The parents of the three girls, however, say they will not be seeking legal redress on the matter.
Familia yote pande zote mbili zimeomba hospitali ya Kakamega msamaha kulingana kwa yale ambayo ilitokea.
Ningependa hii uchungu iweze kuishia mahali hapa, na kama Kakamega General sisi tumewasamea kwa lile jambo lililotokea.
While the families choose the path of forgiveness, the government through the DCI has shown interest in the matter and is keen to investigate just how the mix-up happened 19 years ago. The mothers, on the other hand, pledged to ensure that the girls are not disrupting the bond they have since formed.
Mimi nawapenda watoto wangu wote, wameniongezea hesabu, wameniongezea jamii.
Kikubwa ni upendo ambao tumeweka pamoja. Tuko kimoja. Hakuna utengano.
For now, though, the girls and their parents say they are navigating the path that life has thrown them on. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
It's good for those girls to find closure on this issue. Though they're forgiven the hospital, there are many who are still calling on the DCI to investigate what exactly happened in that hospital, in that mix-up, so that this stops other future incidents from happening. Let's move on now. President Uhuru Kenyatta, in a blunt message delivered in his mother tongue yesterday, hit out at politicians engaging in 2022 succession politics, referring to them as thugs who he promised to crush for sabotaging his development agenda. As expected, the tirade has set off a political discussion around just who the message was intended for and what exactly he meant. And as NTV's Kennedy Mureithi reports, the president's message has not gone unanswered.
Sunday's public display of raw anger by President Uhuru Kenyatta at the annual Akorino meet has set off a whirlwind of political banter. More so, among leaders allied to Deputy President and who observers say the president's hard-hitting message was intended for. Some have taken issue with the president's words, tone and message that came against the backdrop of gaping political fissures, both in his backyard and in his ruling party.
Usiwe mtu ya hasira. Wewe ndio baba yetu. Ukikasirika, nyumba itaharibika.
Uache kukasirika baba. Wacha hasira baba. Calm down baba. Kaa chini na watoto wako.
We shall continue following what our President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has told us.
Political analyst Macharia Munene, however, reckons that the president's anger was directed at all leaders engaged in political campaigns.
His frustration, I believe, was on all of them, who spend a lot of time insulting each other, undermining each other, and they all claim to be supporters for the president.
Deputy President William Ruto and his allies have been on countrywide tours, christened as developmental tours, but where the 2022 succession politics have played out. This has been in open defiance to the president's directive against premature campaigns. The president, however, in an angry outburst, affirmed his authority, saying he will crush the rebels who he accused of derailing his development plans.
Tulimuelewa na ni right yake kusema hivyo. Na pia hiyo ndio maoni yake. Sasa ile ni watu kujiangalia kwa undani. Sababu ile najua ni kwamba watu wa Mount Kenya kabisa kusema bila uoga huwa wanamsupport kabisa 100%. Lakini hiyo tulichaguliwa kama wanasiasa. Na ile tool yetu ya trade ni mdomo.
Professor Macharia Munene is of the view that the president and his Big Four agenda, which forms the base for his legacy, had not taken root and was instead being frustrated by endless political discourse. A blame, he says, both the deputy president and ODM leader Raila Odinga share.
Both are campaigning very hard, and they have been campaigning hard the more they make the other side look bad, the better for them. That's what they think. And I think that fact in itself is eating into the president, that these are two lieutenants, actually. Right now they are both lieutenants of the president, and they cannot be seen to be harmonizing their agendas.
Then there is the other school of thought that the president has ceded too much ground to his deputy, William Ruto, in his central Kenya backyard, that he has been able to make so much inroads and is gaining too much support ahead of the 2022 elections, where he is considered one of the frontrunners. The president, in his message Sunday, emphasized his intention to achieve the goal of spurring development and uniting Kenyans, and there are those who say the pushback was necessary. Kennedy Muredi, NTV.
Now, at a time when elected leaders are demanding for more, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission is expected to launch the Public Sector Wage Bill Study Report tomorrow. Currently, the public wage bill stands at over 33% of the tax revenue, and it's no wonder there is a tussle between SRC and members of parliament over house allowance of 250,000 Kenya shillings every month. But now members of county assemblies also want more. If the MPs get the house allowance, the MCAs want the same extended to them as state officers. But let us look at the numbers here. At the moment, Kenya has 47 counties with 2,249 MCAs. And what this means, these are both elected and nominated. Now, if each of them gets the 50,000 shillings per month allowance they are demanding, then we are looking at a figure of 112,450,000 Kenya shillings. Now, if you multiply that by 12 months, that comes to a staggering 1,349,400,000 Kenya shillings. Now, we have 416 members of parliament in both the Senate and the National Assembly. If we add those numbers of the house allowances for the MPs and the MCs for a period of 1 year, the country is going to bear a huge burden of paying 1.2 billion shillings plus 1.3 billion, which comes to 2,597,000,000 shillings, 400,000. That's the amount that the Kenyan taxpayer is going to be paying every year if this will see the light of day and gets an approval. We're taking a short break on that note, and when we come back, one family wants to know why its kin was killed at the Naivasha Maximum Security Prison. Stay with us. Tonight. In news from the courts, over 80 KRA suspects being investigated for tax evasion and money laundering at the tax agency got a bit of reprieve as the High Court ruled that they no longer have to report to the DCI headquarters daily. The lawyers representing the close to 80 suspects argued that the DCI had not made any headway with respect to investigations into the alleged crimes. Justice Grace Ngenya Macharia ruled that the matter be mentioned on the 18th of June before Justice Luka Kimalu for further directions. A number of leaders have also moved to court to challenge the proposal by Treasury CS Henry Rotich in the 2019-2020 budget that border riders procure insurance cover for their passengers. The petitioners argue that the implementation of the proposal will lead to massive unemployment and huge income losses. They also argue that there was no public participation on the issue. The case has been certified as urgent and will be mentioned on the 24th of this month. And finally, 2 parents have moved to court seeking to have homeschooling recognized as an alternative system of education. Silas Ishikwekwe Were and Onesimus Mboya Orinda say the conditions imposed in the enrollment to formal schools limited the scope of education and are contrary to the child's rights to freedom of conscience and opinion. The 2 argue that a child, though formally enrolled in school, may not be receiving education in a manner that best promotes the well-being and full development of the child. Well, the family of Simon Ndoro Gitai, who was serving a life sentence at the Naivasha Maximum Prison, has accused the warders at the prison for being responsible for their son's death while in prison. Simon Ndoro was allegedly beaten to death by guards at the prison over claims he didn't queue properly for a meal. The prison's management, however, says the prisoner was asthmatic and admitted at the prison clinic before being transferred to the Naivasha County Hospital. NTV's Sharon Baranga reports.
For the better part of the day, David Gita Hinduru had pitched camp at the Naivasha Sub-County Hospital mortuary, trying to find answers into his son's death in prison. 35-year-old Simon Nduru was serving a life sentence at the Naivasha Maximum Prison. His father claims his son had earlier in the week been beaten to death by prison guards and thrown into an isolation cell. He was only informed about it on Saturday by a former inmate.
Jumapili nikakuja baka jera. Nikakutana na madamu nikamwambia anitie hiyo kijana. Akaniweka, kanisugucha. Hakuweza kuniitia. Akaniambia masaa imeisha. Nikamwambia wacha kunisugucha. Niko na habari yote. Mlimpiga na kafa na mkampeleka mochari.
He claims his attempts to get answers from the prison administration were frustrated. He then left for the Naivasha Hospital mortuary, where he confirmed his worst fears. Simon's body was there, bearing bruises on the chest and legs. He had also been foaming on the mouth.
Nikatoka hapo, nikaenda mpaka polisi. Wakanieleza akiwa ni mfungwa, kesi si ya polisi. Kwa hivyo hakuna statement nitaweza kuandika huko. Wakaniambia nirudi prison. Nikachitwa nitarudi prison ni namna gani na hawa ndio walimuua. Tutaelezana nini na hawa.
The prison, however, says Simon was asthmatic and had suffered an attack. They claim he was admitted into the prison's clinic and was later transferred to the Naivasha Sub-County Hospital. A letter from the Naivasha police station addressed to Naivasha Hospital mortuary reads in part, "The bearer of this note are officers from the Naivasha main prison. They do report that they transported one prisoner, Simon Nduto Gitahi, who was sick from their ward, but on arrival to the referral hospital, he was pronounced dead." End of quote.
Mtu asiseme ni ugonjwa, hiyo ni uongo. Tarehe mwezi hii niliongea naye tarehe 8. Kwani aligojeka na siku 2 na akakufa.
The family claims the prison had not been forthcoming with information about their son's death, which they insist happened in the hands of the prison's guards. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Police are still searching for one of their officers who remains unaccounted for following last Saturday's suspected Al-Shabaab attack in Wajir. The militants had planted an improvised explosive device on the road, killing 8 officers. The missing officer has been identified as the driver of the vehicle that hit the IED. The attack occurred at around 11 a.m. between Korof Harar and Konton area in Wajir near the Kenya-Somalia border. Several bodies have been brought back to Nairobi from Wajir. The National Police Service spokesman Charles Owino has also criticized bloggers for sharing images of the victims of the attack. Owino called it a callous and insensitive act that glorifies the terrorists. He says action will be taken against those caught.
The unfeeling act of posting pictures of our fallen heroes online by one blogger is very unfortunate and inhuman. This is glorification of terror, which is tantamount to supporting the same.
The county government of Marsabit County Government has beefed up its fight against the deadly Kala-azar disease, which has so far claimed 15 lives, among them children. In a bid to avoid any further deaths, the county launched an intensive vector control exercise targeting 12,000 households to destroy the mosquito breeding sites in the most affected areas.
Since March of this year, the deadly Kala-azar disease, which is normally characterized by weight loss, fever, anemia, and the enlargement of the liver and spleen, has claimed lives, mostly in the northern region of the country. Marsabit County has bore the brunt of this disease, and at the weekend, the county launched an aggressive vector exercise to ensure no life was lost to the mosquito-borne disease. Some 12,000 households were targeted in the exercise, with particular focus on the most affected areas of Logologo and Laisamis wards.
Idara ya matibabu ama afya wameweza kupima wananchi 1180. Kupima hawa mtu mmoja ni shilingi 1000. Hakuna mtu yeyote ameulizwa hata shilingi moja kuchangia, ama hakuna viongozi yeyote amechangia hata shilingi moja.
According to the county's health department, 1,180 people have been screened, 271 of them tested positive, while 202 were treated and discharged. 41 people are still admitted in various hospitals, while 13 are under outpatient treatment. The disease that was first reported in the county in 2013 is said to have so far claimed 15 lives, among them children. In February 2018, the government launched guidelines for the treatment of Kala-azar to help eradicate the disease by 2025. Area leaders now are asking the national government to consider establishing Kala-azar control centers fully equipped with diagnostic facilities and testing kits in parts of the county that are prone to the disease. The vector spraying exercise will last for 2 weeks. Gladys Gashanja, NTV.
Well, you're watching NTV Tonight. The shilling slides to one of its lowest points since the start of the year. We'll tell you more about this on the stock exchange right after this commercial break. Stay with us.
time to get down to business. Welcome, I am Julian Amboko. Let's start with the forex market. Now, the shilling started the week on a relatively weak footing, sliding against the US dollar to exchange at 101.81 units, posting one of its weakest positions since the start of 2019. The weakening comes on the back of high liquidity in the money market, with the interbank rate standing at 2.7%, having fallen below the 3% mark for the first time since mid-April. Similarly, the Nairobi Securities Exchange kicked off the week on a bearish note, with investors losing 10.6 billion shillings in paper wealth compared to Friday's close. A key factor driving this decline was the coming into effect of the issuance of bonus shares by Kenya Reinsurance Corporation, which saw the counter's price fall from 14 shillings and 75 cents on Friday to 4 shillings and 24 cents as at the close of Monday's trade. Monday's trade was dominated by Safaricom, which moved 21 million shares valued at 560 million shillings. On to matters banking, and banks are turning to alternative channels to boost profitability as the interest rate cap law continues to eat into their earnings. A report by Site-On Investments indicates that return on equity for banks for the first quarter of 2019 went up marginally to 19.2% from 18.4% at a similar period last year. The National Treasury has once again signaled its intention to have the rate cap repealed in what is an admission that the law has had counterproductive effects on the banking environment and the economy.
Prior to the introduction of the banking interest rate cap, the Central Bank of Kenya's governor went on record giving this clear warning. It is a warning that went unheeded.
The central bank is extremely worried because if this went through, we believe that it will be extremely harmful and also ineffective. So it will defeat its purpose. It will encourage the emergence of informal lending mechanisms. And frankly, the ones that won't be getting it are the ones that are poorest.
Fast forward to the third year since it was introduced, and the National Treasury has now seen the sense in those words, albeit through experience in terms of dwindling credit to the private sector.
I'm in this year finance bill proposing a repeal of Section 33B of the Banking Act 2016. I'm convinced this will unlock credit to the private sector, and in particular to the SMEs.
The interest rate cap has compelled banks to become more innovative in the way they do business, in a bid to cut down on expenses. This has also resulted in the reduction of staff numbers.
In 2018, we had about 25 branches being closed, but for the first quarter of this year, we had one new branch opening. Over the last 1 year period, we've seen the central bank rate decline by 100 basis points, and this has tended to compress the interest income from banks even more.
So a lot of banks are looking for regional expansion to grow their business and drive growth in the region.
As Rotich aims to have the interest rate cap law repealed, there are indications that the matter could take a political turn and prevent the achievement of that objective.
Na hii bank inachukua pesa yake yote inapatia Rotich kwa sababu yeye ndiye anakopa.
On aggregate, the banking sector's profitability has gone up, with the reality on the ground being that small banks are facing a struggle for survival, even as experts forecast a further consolidation of the industry through mergers and acquisitions. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
And on to matters trade, country-specific tariffs within the East African region is one of the greatest challenges that manufacturers face as they seek to export goods into the region. The manufacturers now want the government to relook the common external tariffs because as it stands now, Kenyan goods are attracting higher tariffs in the region, while regional goods get a lower rate in Kenya. Lillian Carrier with the details.
Last week, East Africa Community member states presented their 2019-2020 budgets, and manufacturers are not pleased. Their source of discomfort, they say, is the increased import duty across the region. They say it would have been better to harmonize tax measures in order to spur economic growth in the region.
Kenyan products going into Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda or Burundi are dutiable,
but those products from those countries coming into Kenya are not dutiable. So Kenya has played its part in remaining in harmony with what was agreed as the common external tariffs, but our neighbors haven't.
Trade Principal Secretary Chris Kipto, however, downplays the concerns, saying that the duties imposed are not as severe and are just set out as country-specific protection measures.
Africa is not talking about a trade war. In fact, we are integrating, we are coming together, collapsing the tariffs and reducing them. We have agreed in our agreements on trade remedy measures, which is a trade defense mechanism that we all put in place in case an industry is facing maybe material injury.
Manufacturers are calling upon the harmonizations of fees payable to counties for various activities such as vehicle branding and business permits, which they say inflate the cost of doing business. But all is not dull and gloomy. The allocation of 1.7 billion shillings to support the growth of SMEs in the manufacturing sector in this year's budget is among the measures that has spiked hope.
The removal of the railway development levy for raw material imports, the reduction of IDF fees from 2% to 1.5% for raw material imports. Those are very good initiatives. We are coming closer to an equal playing platform between us and our neighbors.
As of now, manufacturers can only hope that the government implements these and other tax rebates it has set out in the budget so as to ease their cost of doing business. Lillian Kiarie, NTV.
And moving on, Kwale, Makueni and Taita Taveta counties are set to benefit from a 400 million shillings financing from the Global Environment Facility GEF for the restoration and conservation of agriculture and the fostering of a sustainable development goals. The project, which will be implemented by the Food and Agriculture Organization, will be undertaken over the next 4 years, financed from the 7th cycle of funding from the GEF. In the 6th cycle, Laikipia, Marsabit and Isiolo benefited from a similar amount of funding. Kenya is one of the 11 African countries, which include Tanzania, Angola, Botswana, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia and Zimbabwe, who are set to benefit from GEF's funding. The goal of the finance is to avoid, reduce and reverse further deforestation, degradation and desertification, as well as to adapt to climate change. And on to matters tech, China's Huawei Technologies company says it expects to make losses of at least $30 billion this financial year as the impact of the trade dispute between China and the United States takes effect. The Trump administration slapped sanctions on Huawei at a time when US-China trade talks hit rough waters, prompting assertions from China's leaders about the country's progress in achieving self-sufficiency in the key semiconductor business. Huawei has admitted that it had underestimated the impact of the ban would have on its business and has for the first quarter quantified the expected losses. And up next, we have the financial report. And that's it from the business desk. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
Beat germs with
Well, farther afield and news making headlines around the world, former Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi died today in a Cairo hospital after fainting during a session in court. He was Egypt's first democratically elected president, but spent just one turbulent year in office after the 2011 uprising before the army toppled him in 2013. The 67-year-old was speaking before the judge when he suddenly became very animated and fainted. He was quickly rushed to hospital where he later died. The Islamist leader has been in prison since his ouster and has been on trial for a number of cases, including spying for Iran, Qatar, and militant groups such as the Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Elsewhere, Chadian rebel leader Mahamat Nouri is being detained at this home in Paris, France, over alleged crimes against humanity committed in Sudan between 2005 and 2010. Paris prosecutors have confirmed the arrest of Mahamat Nouri along two other Chadian rebels as part of an investigation opened last month into crimes against humanity and similar charges. Nouri founded the Union of Forces for Democracy and Development Rebel Coalition. He sought exile in France in 2010 after he was expelled from Sudan, where he had fled following a failed coup against President Idris Deby in 2008. And 30 people are killed and 40 others injured in a triple suicide bombing in northeast Nigeria. Emergency services reported the attack bore the hallmarks of the Boko Haram jihadist group. 3 bombers detonated explosives outside a hall in Konduga, 38 kilometers from the Borno state capital, where football fans were watching a match on TV. The death toll from the attack has so far risen to 30. It was reported that emergency responders were unable to reach the site of the blast quickly, leading to the high number of fatalities. The violence has spilled into neighboring Niger, Chad, and Cameroon, prompting the formation of a regional military coalition to battle the insurgents. Well, back to the country where a number of schools have now turned to technology and are using biometric sign-in system and CCTV cameras to monitor their students' movements. This is helping in checking the cases of student unrest and arson and missing students, obviously. NTV's Bernardo Juang was at the Cordero Barra Secondary School in Rongo and reports on how the system has helped keep a sharp eye on the goings-on in and around the school. We don't have the story for now, but we'll be airing that later. No, I'm told by the director we have it. Let's listen in.
At the break of dawn, the town of Rongo comes alive. A flurry of uniformed students, some falling into stride on their way back to school from the midterm break. Before, the students will be accompanied to school by their parents, but there is no need for that anymore, thanks to advancement in technology that a few schools have employed that help monitor the students' whereabouts and keep them safe. At Cordero High School in Rongo, Migori County, students use the biometric systems to sign in. It is one of the schools in the area that have embraced it.
Wanafunzi walikuwa naingia na vitu haramu shuleni. Tuseme wao walikuwa naingia tu, kiingia mzazi hajui sasa umeingia shule, unaenda pale na tu kuandika jina kwa kitabu.
Parents are able to know where the students are. Previously, we had students who were leaving school and almost 2 days or even a week later, some of them have not gone home. Maybe they have opted to go and visit a parent. Now, when a student leaves home now, the parent is able to know real time that their son has left the school, and it gives the reason.
When they arrive in school from home, the students are subjected to a security check, after which they line up to sign in through the biometric system. That way, the school keep tabs on who have reported back and are in their care. Their parents are also notified that their children are in school. When they leave, they have to sign out, and the system notifies their parents through text message.
Kabla uingie nyumbani, unapata kuwa halafu ishafikia mzazi tumeshatoka shuleni.
They have had to deal with cases of students sneaking out of school. In 2016, the school's largest dormitory was burnt down by unknown assailants. The school has now installed CCTV cameras around the school to monitor students' movements and also look out for any mischief.
An effective monitoring system, whether it is a biometric system or a CCTV system, gives us the opportunity of being able to monitor the school in a 24-hour period.
As the students come, as you can even see, there is one here, just right at the gate. So as people come here, there's one facing the gate, there's one facing the other side, one facing the other side. They capture what's happening here. And every block is having a CCTV camera, and all of them are centralized at the principal's office.
Jim Agutu, the school's principal, say the technology also helped them during national exams.
Every morning, every student must check in to confirm that they're presenting themselves for the exams. But at the same time, in all schools and most schools, it would stop impersonation.
The use of biometrics in schools has also been informed by the number of student unrest, arson, and also cases of students or pupils missing from school. Bernard Ojuang, NTV.
Well, we take a break, and Aida Waringa will be here with the sports news. Stay with us.
To the week, I'm Aida Waringa. Time to play here on NTV Sport. And tonight on the road to AFCON, we focus on Group B that will feature 2 debutants in the continental showpiece, which has since expanded from 16 to 24 teams. The group will also see former champions Nigeria back after a hiatus and a couple of Burundi's players who ply their trade in the Kenyan Premier League.
Road to AFCON 2019 in association with GoTV.
Despite Nigeria's national team coach Gernot Rohr downplaying his team's chances of winning a 4th Africa Cup of Nations title, the Super Eagles will be looking to make a statement after a 6-year absence. Nigeria last won the AFCON in 2013 and then surprisingly failed to qualify for the next 2 editions. Times have since changed for the squad, with only 3 surviving members from the class of 2013. even the final squad announcement was done differently. The Nigerian Football Federation went digital and had the coach make his announcement via a video posted to the federation's Twitter handle, something that had fans divided.
Hello, this is my list of final 23.
Captain John Mikel, along with Ahmed Musa and Kenneth Omeruo, are expected to lend their experience to the 20 debutants in the squad. The team will hope to do better in Egypt as opposed to its pre-tournament preps that saw Nigeria draw 0-0 with a stubborn Tanzania before losing 1-0 to Senegal. Guinea head coach Paul Pert, once a 3-month coach to Kenya's Harambee Stars, had been embroiled in a bitter feud with English club Liverpool over the release of Naby Keita for international duty. The 24-year-old captain eventually joined the squad as they arrived in Egypt ahead of the biennial tournament, though his fitness after an injury in the Champions League first leg semi-final remains a doubt. This will be the 13th appearance for the Elephants at the AFCON after finishing second in 1976 and getting to the quarters 4 times, the most recent being in 2015. The Kenyan Premier League can take some pride in producing 2 Burundi's players in the 2019 AFCON squad. Centre-back Omar Musa and goalkeeper Justin Ndikumana both play for KPL side Sofapaka. The lowest-ranked team at the tournament at 136th in the world will be taking part in its first AFCON. However, after emerging second in the qualifying group with 10 points ahead of Gabon, who had taken part in the last 3 AFCONs, the Swallows shouldn't be underestimated. Madagascar, ranked 1 point above Kenya at 107th globally, will also be taking part in their first Africa Cup of Nations. Part of the Barriers pre-tournament preps included a 1-0 loss to the Harambee Stars. The player to watch out for will be Kaizer Chiefs midfielder Dax Arohasina. Group B action will get underway on Saturday at 11 p.m. with Guinea versus Madagascar.
Road to AFCON 2019 in association with GoTV.
Experience the unforgettable with the Total Africa Cup of Nations with Supersport on GoTV. GoTV, live it, love it. Proudly brought to you by Bettin.
And it's T-minus 3 days to first kickoff at the Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt on Friday at 11 p.m. With Kenya's opener against Algeria coming 2 days later, Harambee Stars are back at their camp in France after a 1-1 draw versus DR Congo in their final pre-tournament friendly. Creative midfielder Francis Kahata gave his thoughts on Kenya's chances in their first AFCON in 15 years.
Ingekuwa poa kama hizi team kama Senegal, Algeria. Kama tunaweza kuchukua point hapo hadi kama ni maximum point. Yaani hizi timu zenye watu wanaangalia tuwezi chukua. Azina hiyo ndio itakuwa kazi easier sana kwa hiyo group na believe tukishachukua hizo pointi azina itakuwa easy kwetu, tusiangalia ati Tanzania ati ni timu ndogo. Nafikiria team ndio imekwenda AFCON azina timu azina ina uwezo na team already sasa imejiprepare. So ni tushikane si wote na nadhani tukiwa pamoja zina hiyo unity kiwa kuanzia mafaa na sisi maplayer zinafikiria tutaenda mbali.
Shifting gear just a little bit, and for all the hikers and adventure sports enthusiasts out there, access to Lake Ellis, 14,000 feet up Mount Kenya through Meru County, has been launched. The event also saw the first ever mountain tourism event in Meru, a 4x4 challenge that took place on the road, commissioned at a cost of 30 million shillings. The event kicked off at Theemwe, which will be the newest entrance to Mount Kenya through the county. The Mount Kenya Theemwe entrance route will be accessed through Gitimbine, Nkubu or Chogoria in Meru County. The county government announced that it will organize the first mountain marathon in Meru in August this year on the mountain.
Lake Ellis is 14,000 feet above the sea level. The highest peak, Mount Kenya, is it's about 17,000 feet above the sea level, so you can see we are almost at the highest peak.
That looks absolutely amazing. And let's cross borders now. Uruguay crushed Ecuador 4-0 in their Copa America opener with help from an early sending off, deflated their opponents and assured the 15-time champions of the simplest.
it's 5 minutes past 10. Time for Press Plus with Mark Masai. I'm Dennis Okari. Our sign language presenter tonight has been David Gondoa.